Oh. Good morning, everyone. This morning we have our formal Tuesday meeting at which we conduct a majority of the important business in a closing manner. The other meetings, actually the workshops and so forth, is where a lot of this is discussed. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With our chairman in Washington, D.C., I am your chair of the meeting for the day. Reminds me of the Queen for a Day show, but never mind. This morning, let's see about the minutes.
I approved them, didn't see any difference. I mean, I reviewed them, so I'd make a motion to approve.
There's a motion on the table to approve the minutes. Let me check to see if there are any hands reminding people that they may try to get our attention by raising their hand if they're on Zoom or coming up to the podium here in the meeting room. Seeing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's 2 votes of the board. It may be sort of a joke, but actually it's not. I mean, your input is really quite important. Now, the consent agenda, Mr. Dahl.
I think we just open it up and instead of boring you line by line, let you review it. If you have any questions on any line items, we can certainly answer those for you.
Yeah, we're trying to expedite the time today. We've been asked any number of people to expedite that, including my erstwhile partner, Rick Dahl, has to go give a fabulous speech.
Yeah.
How much are the tickets to your speech?
I think I only have to pay people $5 to come in.
I'll go. So I don't see any hands. I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as
In its entirety.
in its entirety, and vouchers and warrants in the amount of $3,799,187.02.
I see no hands up, nobody in the audience, so let's vote. And please say aye if you're in favor of the consent agenda approval.
Aye.
I also vote aye. And I note that the other one, this one was silent. Now we move to the motion agenda items. And we have 2. The first item is from IT. This has been workshopped any number of times. Maybe Tim can give us a very brief overview and then open it up for questions.
Good morning, commissioners and audience, citizens, neighbors. I'm Kim Hort, IT Director for Cowlitz County. We leveraged a grant for a data health assessment to have this professional group called CHR Creative come in and do an assessment of our virtual computers, our servers, and our network to make sure that we are, performing in a good manner. And there are some gaps with the skill sets that we have on our team. And so we're looking to engage with them on a monthly basis. This contract is, again, a month to month. It is kind of spendy. But what I see is that this is providing the county services to optimize the resources that we have. So essentially using what we have more efficiently. And this organization essentially will be doing the work to help my county team, our county team, perform more efficiently and serve the community better.
Yeah, I honestly not sure you could hire this work for less when you figure in benefits and all that other type of stuff. I looked through the contract, I do, and I'm in favor of this, but I have a couple questions when I was looking at it. There's a section where a support ticketing system, you know, when there's a problem. I'm assuming that's to your staff. If
It's
The work-
separate. It's us to them.
yeah, if the worker has a problem, they don't send a ticket to this company
No.
to fix it. It's,
No, we would still engage as we do with
Yeah.
our departments.
I
This is
assume that, but
our
wanted to
relationship to them.
clarify it. And I was looking at the breakdown of the deal, the 75 servers, 16 hours. And it says 75 agents. My only question on that, is an agent considered a user? Because in another section, it says 750 plus users. So I didn't know if they dropped to zero or.
No, so we have about 750 users countywide. So that's all of our departments from the sheriff's office to the assessor. The agents is what's going to be installed on those
Okay.
servers.
Okay, gotcha. That's what I had.
I must ask one question or I'd be totally out of character. When you said 750 users, are you including the 911 folks?
No,
Good. Okay, thank you. Well, okay, time's up.
Okay, we're all in a hurry today, so you're getting off the hook a little bit, but I'm just gonna say the one word, grant. You know, we don't like those.
it's expensive, but the other side of it is that it's not just one individual that we're contracting with. This is supplementing for a team about, I think it's 25 professionals and they're subject matter experts. So we're getting more than just what we could staff internally for one or two employees. So
Yeah, it's a complex area and no one person has a command over the whole thing. And the fact that this company it makes a livelihood by understanding all the vagaries of all the different environments. Like our network within this building has to be more efficient, but take into account the network over at the Hall of Justice and they have to interconnect. It goes on and on. I'll stop there.
the other thing I want to also articulate is that when they first proposed this to me, they wanted to lock me in for 3 years and I got them down to month to month. So there's a contingency within the contract that if we do find that we are able to, you know, use their resources efficiently, we can terminate. So it's not a long-term contract, if that makes sense. Get your steps in.
They don't like it when I yell from the back. Too bad Dennis isn't here. I'd have done it anyway. But we're talking 10,500 a month. So in the course of a year, what is that? $5 million or something? You know, it's like,
Huh?
well, my math is meant to be slanted there.
It's 120 grand a year.
Yeah. And this is coming from a grant from whom?
No, we leveraged a grant to do a data center health assessment.
So you already got this money?
We got this money and then with that assessment, we found that there's gaps and deficiencies in the skill sets. And so we need to hire on the experts rather than trying to create and fill positions within the county organization.
So, where did the grant originally come from?
The grant came from the Department of Emergency Management and it's a cybersecurity grant. So I leveraged that to do the cybersecurity assessment. And in that cybersecurity assessment, we found a need for their services.
About 3 years ago, before you probably began attending, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, we ended up having to pay $100,000 and the risk pool having to pay, I don't remember the amount, but it was 3 or 4 times that much. because we got cyber hacked. And part of the pressure we feel is not only what I just explained, but the risk pool says we won't cover you unless you do certain things.
You know, I kind of remember back when it was like a .com kind of thing, but you used to, I mean, Cowlitz County had this problem where somebody got the domain name, but then when you went to it, you went to a porn site or something like this, you know?
Oh, I don't
That's
remember
been
the
some time
details.
back.
I don't remember the details.
But anyway, that's just a side.
And
you
the
know,
important thing is for perspective, if you want to hire a network engineer and you live in Seattle, you're probably paying around $300K a year. So I'm talking about a decent top-notch kind of network engineer.
So most any 10-year-old then.
I beg your pardon.
I said most any 10-year-old.
Oh, no, yeah, don't let you get by with that. That is a grave misconception. They can turn the Xbox on, but
Well, I don't know, man. I was making mud pies and eating them when I was a kid, and now they can not only turn on their phone, you know, they can dial up anything they want. It's like crazy, but I jest and I shouldn't because. we
because
got
you
things to do.
requested us to speed things up.
I know, I know.
Okay.
I gotta shut up.
Okay, I don't see any hands up. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
I don't know, we made a motion yet.
I'll call for the vote after you make the motion.
Okay. I would move to approve the agreement with CHR Creative to provide information technology management on a month-to-month basis, total amount $10,025 per month with a 10% contingency to accommodate unforeseen developments. And I looked through the unforeseen developments, basically if we add something new or we do something we don't
Exactly.
already exist.
Yeah, their primary focus will be our server administration along with backup recovery.
Yeah.
And
So that would be my motion.
Okay. I see no hands. Tim is in his chair. I mean, the anonymous individual's in his chair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion passes.
thank you, commissioners.
Good morning. Item 2 on the motion agenda will be explained.
Good morning, Gina James, Health and Human Services. The item on the agenda today is an item that was on the agenda 2 weeks ago. This is a contract amendment with the Department of Ecology. The board asked to table this item until today's meeting so we could have some communication with the Department of Ecology to ask about using these funds for cleanup costs. Unfortunately, that's not an allowable expenditure of this particular grant. It is primarily focused on the solid waste complaint investigation and follow-up work. So the answer was no. So we're bringing this back today. Again, the amendment was only removing a portion of the funds that we don't anticipate to be utilized through the remainder of the contract period, which goes through the end of June.
With a little trepidation on my part regarding this being a grant, the G word, could we have used the money, or could we use the money for hiring an individual to go around and sleuthing and helping make the case for further prosecution?
To do more of the enforcement.
More of the investigation, you said, was part of included in here, and we really never have enough staff to do the investigation. For example, for the court systems, we've actually authorized additional people for doing investigations on a case. So I'm wondering if this is an opportunity, because it may be a personal view of mine, but I get fried when people throw crap all over the place and walk away, and we don't have the resources to actually investigate and press on them.
Yeah, it does support that investigation work. I know they're actively working on there's about 44 open complaints currently that they're working through with individuals. Enhancing that, we could certainly explore what that could look like. I think it would come back to what our code, following our code and what would be enforceable.
Yeah, I could picture us doing hiring a PI. Okay, on that specific job, we really want to know what we can do on it. So doesn't mean we have to hire staff, but maybe we can contract out investigation. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, if we could do that, because we got, what ends up happening, just take the recycle center down
At Willow.
that we're looking at closing because people are just coming along and dumping stuff. And so then the people that use that legitimately all of a sudden have to move and do all this because some nitwits are out there doing the wrong thing. So I'd really like to control the nitwits if we can and let the people, still utilize their center. And I do see here, it gives you this ability to do investigation assistance and enforcement. So I wouldn't be opposed to that if you wanted to keep some of that and use it for outside. Not so much about bringing bodies on because then they're here forever, but.
Right, but as a contractor
Yeah.
and possibly could we purchase equipment to take pictures?
Oh, we do have equipment that we use to take photos when they go out now.
But I mean,
But-
actually,
But like on site,
yeah, like a game trail camera.
Potentially. I'm wondering if the board would like to have maybe a work session where we could explore some of this. I don't have all the answers to
Yeah.
what could be allowed. I know this particular grant goes through just the end of June. And it's likely will get presented with another one to continue that work. But we could sit down and look at what the allowable uses are and kind of what's in that realm and maybe get some of these questions answered and figure out where our scope is.
It would seem then if we table this for another 2 weeks, that would be good.
Well, I know that this amendment is holding up our billing. The state won't let us submit for reimbursement until the amendment's processed. But
We have sufficient float though, don't we?
I think so.
Well, let's table it for 2 weeks, and if that doesn't work, you can even come to us next week and say,
it isn't working. We need to do something.
Yeah.
You okay with that,
Okay.
Gina?
Mhm.
Yeah, if we can find a way to preserve some of these places for actual legitimate people and just really get after the ones that are doing the nonsense, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, and it seems like maybe we want to include I know there's a nuisance abatement person now, and so we maybe want to kind of look at all of the pieces involved and.
so you'll set that up for us?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So I need a motion to table.
Where am I at? I would make a motion to table agreement amendment number 21-050 with Washington State Department of Ecology for 2 weeks to investigate some other uses for this fund.
We have a motion on the table. I see no comments. Those people on Zoom can put their hands up, or if you're calling in on the phone, I think it's *9 that will do that for you. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please vote aye. Oh,
When you made the comment that they were talking about closing some of the recycle centers, are you talking about the ones that are scattered around the county where people would dispose of their cardboard and glass and bottles and stuff? Is that what it is? Or are you talking about the main transfer station?
No, just the satellites. The transfer station is under control the whole time, but the satellites are not. Like this is the Willow Grove one. And a thing that I find we should be more cognizant of is every time somebody breaks a law, we pile up more laws and we shut things down. And eventually we'll all be able to stay home and not do anything. That's not the correct solution. In this case, I really want to make it a point that that's not a tolerable thing. I mean, that's fundamental to ecology, if you ask me.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let me call for the vote again. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion to table passes. Thank you, Gina. And now we will have public comment until the 9:45 hearing. And after that, we can resume public comment again.
All right, so I want to talk about the sanctuary county situation that we have, that the resolution. And I'm surprised we're not withdrawing that resolution today, but so I guess I have to talk more about it. And the fact is that when we make ourselves this, and this is about immigration and illegal immigrants. When you put this title on the county and have this resolution in place, it invites, people to come here that are already breaking the law. And I want to say, personally, I got skin in the game. My wife is a naturalized citizen. It took us 5 years to get through this and through the process. And it's really hard, and it should be. I'm not complaining about the process or what I had to go through. I knew it going in. But when you say, okay, you guys, this other group can just come through and do whatever, and they get all kinds of free medical care, the way things are going, free everything, basically. And it's really not fair to people who have had to endure the process, which I'm not complaining about, but I'm just saying, we took the legal route. And all the time I think, geez, we could have just flown to Mexico and walked across the border and got a bunch of free stuff, maybe I'd get my house painted or something for free. I don't know, but it's just, it's like the most backward thing. Now, I've made this point to the sheriff one time, a long time ago, is that when you do this, you start creating classes of society. You've got people that are exempt from the laws over here, got people that have to obey the laws over here, which is all of us, I just don't believe that this is the way our government should be running. It's like, if we're all going to be equal under the law, then we should all be equal under the law. Nobody should get free pass on anything.
Yeah, if I might interrupt you, I completely agree and with everything you said, except one thing, which is, to the best of my knowledge, there is no resolution that we've done calling this a sanctuary county.
No, you guys didn't do it. This has been from 2017. And
right, but even in the search, Carolyn Funding's land is on. Maybe she has a lot of history. If Tracy Jackson's on, they've been around a long time. We looked for such a resolution and I didn't find it. And Because I agree with you, if there's a sanctuary resolution like that, it should get the boot, but I cannot throw something out that isn't there.
Well, that's odd because when I looked it up, I didn't have any problem finding it. So and this is all,
You found a resolution?
I found the governor's resolution and then I saw all these other counties. There's a big list of them that signed on. Cowlitz County is one of them. And I guess they made their individual resolutions, but it's not a law, it's a resolution. But if you
No,
guys
I-
can't find it in there, then why are we on this list,
You're probably on a list for which you did not volunteer and sign up for.
Could
And-
be, but I happen to have seen this before. So anyway, because of short time, I don't want to get too far discussing that. I'll do more research and then I'll bring it back to you when I have the actual paper maybe, or if maybe
Yeah, so there are two things, and if you can find a resolution that has a signature of two or more of a commissioners from however far back you have to go. And then that's one. Two is maybe you want us to do a resolution that says you provide the document, says in this document, Cowlitz County is listed as a sanctuary city. We can simply say we are not and refer to the document. So we have
here's
Carolyn.
Carolyn, let's see what the expert has to say. Good morning, Carolyn.
Yeah, if you've been in this head for any length of time, you'd know that it's all mumbled around in there, but I do remember something about what you're talking about, and I'm gonna get back to you, Tim, because I believe what you're referring to is actually remember the ICE and the juvenile department and us claiming sanctuary. I think that's what he's referring to. So I'm gonna do some digging and I'll try to get more information.
All right, good deal.
Okay, that doesn't contradict anything any of us have said here, although I don't think that it's any resolution we have done.
Okay, good. Well, that's good to know. So it should be easier to get that erased. Now, really quick, one more personal note is it's come to my attention that you guys have received some message about me personally as being a seditious traitor. That was the comment that was made about me by some citizen. I believe you guys have seen the picture of it. And, I just want to say that when this would be like a misterm. Like I've been called a lot of names over the last few years and they're all kind of fun, but this one's a little incorrect because in order to be seditious traitor, well, coming from the side that's coming from, as I can see it, that would mean that I'd have to be a part of the Communist Party in order to be seditious traitor. I mean, well, I'm not a member of the Communist Party, so I really can't be a seditious traitor in that regard. So I think this person has a thesaurus, or it's a dictionary of some kind. Maybe you ought to look at that up. And if he would like a more clear picture with a better sign, you guys can, I can give one to you and you can send it to him or something. Like the sign he used was honk if you think the election's stolen, where we're up in Olympia one day. But man, if he would have used the Let's Go Brandon banner I had, that was really huge, and I did it on the steps of the Capitol. Now that would be a picture that I would like to see circulated widely. So that's my personal note. I'm off to protest. I got my protest shirt on and I'm ready to go. It's been enjoyable, gentlemen, and I'll see you next Tuesday.
Rick, do you notice how he left me speechless?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is in regards to the sanctuary city, and I think there's been a number of people that I've talked to that have wondered about it because we are getting stuff in the mail to send to Inslee and Patty Murray and Perez to tell them that we don't want the sanctuary city. So I think that's where some of this information could also be coming. So I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
I think you're correct. I have seen, well, this was quite, I don't know, 3 years ago, before the ICE incident, where Sheriff Nelson was being questioned on that. And there was a booklet with thousands of county names on there, some in the sanctuary column and some in not sanctuary column. And I'll repeat what I've said before, because there's an extremely important principle in here, which is, I'll do it by example. Our jail may have a detainee, and that detainee has fulfilled whatever obligations there are by the current system within Cowlitz County. So maybe they got picked up for shoplifting, and in the process, they find out that this person's an illegal immigrant. Their mode of operation at that time, and I think it still is, was to let ICE know that we have so-and-so and he's on your list. I believe the regulations are such that we could hold him for 3 days. And we would do that, but we would say, this person will be released on blah, blah, blah day and time. Come and pick him up if you would like. Their response would be, hold him for us, we'll be up there next week. Well, the problem with that is you now have an agency that's acting like a judicial system, holding people, in my book, illegally. If there's a bench warrant out there for a person, our jail will hold them. We will hold them, but not on an agency. The Department of Ecology calls up and says, Rick Dahl is driving his Jeep too much. You better hold him. We're not going to do it. But we might ask him not to drive so much. No.
Just making it hard for me to leave. Okay, so here's the
Big
flaw
job.
in your thinking. You know, you're saying, well, they fulfilled all their obligation and they can get out of jail now. But the fact is, no, they didn't. They're an illegal alien. So why would they have any right at all? And if they said, hold them till Tuesday, because that's when the bus goes through, hold them till Tuesday. They haven't fulfilled any obligation. They wouldn't, because they don't have rights. They shouldn't, and they don't have the law would not be on their side, right?
There's some
Isn't that the
fundamental
flaw?
principles here. I'd feel more comfortable if we had someone from the PA's office chime in on this. There is no question that lots of illegal things happen all the time. And the question is, who can arrest them, and the citizens arrest and all that. Those all count. But the jails do have to operate under a set of regulations. And the last thing you want to do is deputize an authority to hold people, such as in the NDAA, which is the most disastrous law around. You look puzzled. The NDAA, that's where we can detain people, and like the guys, you want justice messed up, take a look at the guys from the January 6th thing. They've been
Good, we
held
were
in
thinking
hell.
right along the same thing. I think the same thing, except the January 6th people, those are American citizens for the most part, or 100% of them are.
Right,
They would
and-
have rights.
And that's the point. It does need to be adjudicated, and that's why we have a judge, and the judge is supposed to look at that and say, this has cause or not cause. I'm not totally disagreeing with you. I'm saying it's pretty dicey, and the last thing we want to do is authorize agencies to take on the function of a judicial system, because you know what's going to happen. In fact, you might even argue right now that the judicial system is an agency.
You could argue that, but I guess your point just keeps getting lost on me, because it's and what I keep saying is, these aren't citizens, and here's another aspect of this, and it's bigger than Cowlitz County. It's the fact that we have all these people coming across the border and that we're inviting them here. And the fact is that, think about what you're doing there. You got some apparently poor people down in south of Mexico, Honduras, Nicaragua, whatever. And you say, hey, you know what? If you get up here, you can have all this stuff and we'll protect you and we won't deport you. Well, think about this, you know, you're going to make this journey. And even if you're a young man, you know, it's dangerous and it's deadly. And you come you're going to cross 2 or 3 countries to get here or fly to Mexico and come across, whatever it is. But you are encouraging people to risk their lives to get here. And for what? What do they get when they get here? Okay, so they get some free medical or whatever, but as a worker, they have no protections. You know, it's like if you got some illegals working out in the field and the guy cuts his foot, hey, get out of here. You know, we're not going to help you at all. Then they come over to the hospital and they'll get free care, but there's no protection against the hours they work or any of the other things that are in place for the rest of us. And as in, you know, it kind of should be that way. I will say, you know, and again, skin in the game. I knew a guy who was an illegal alien and he'd been here a long time and he didn't come into the country illegally, but he got here and then like in my case where we had to finish a whole bunch of paperwork, he didn't get that done. And the person that he came here to be with died. So he was kind of more or less stuck here in a sense, you know, and so he could never he's passed on now, or I probably wouldn't talk about it, but because I liked the guy. He was a nice guy, friendly as hell. And I really loved him. He was a really friendly guy and I didn't go down and turn him in. So I guess that's a little difficulty for my own convictions. But the fact is, he was in a place where he couldn't do anything. But he could never hold a legitimate job. You know, he could never own a house. He could never move up like we're supposed to all be able to do. And this is what I'm talking about. This is traction that you create when you say it's okay to come here. We won't deport you, but we're also not going to watch out for your worker rights or all these other things that I've been talking about. So, you know, I'm just saying if that is in there in any kind of way, we need to change it. And I'm not for going out and making some mass roundup and put them all in the jail until next Friday or something. I'm just saying, take the title off, you know, get that out of there in whatever form we have it. And which we don't know what form that is yet. So I'm talking up the wrong tree at the moment, but, or maybe, you know, but I'm just saying having that title it does more harm than it would ever do good.
Big discussion, appreciate it. Other citizen comments?
Really leaving mess.
You can start the meeting after that. Well, not seeing any comments or any hands up, I think maybe all that haste I put in isn't going to be important. Do you have any miscellaneous you want to introduce at this point in time?
Well, the only thing I would say, if people have interest in a workshop tomorrow, we have a current Second Amendment resolution and I've drafted another and we're just going to kind of look at them. If you have an interest in that, 1:30 tomorrow in the workshop, you may tune in and offer some comments if that is an area you would like to offer comments in.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you intend to accomplish with that?
The one we have is pretty brief and it really, when I look through it, it says you know, a lot of the things that are constitutional, that we have the right to bear arms and that type of thing. But it really was developed along 1693, whatever that was. And the one I'm introducing really is more broad. It cites some case law and it just felt like the one was really kind of focused on this one law that came up and then we did a reaction to it. And the other is more broad, cites some case law where it's been shown that we do have that right. And it takes in the Second Amendment and it also takes in, I think, the fourth for illegal seizure and stuff like that. So it's just a broader resolution. So if you have interest in seeing it, you know, you'd be able to take a look at that tomorrow as we discuss it and see if it goes any farther.
That should be a pretty interesting discussion tomorrow. Then I do encourage people to come. There are some issues there that are pretty important in that. I'll just throw one out. It strikes me as odd that you have a fundamental law of the land in the US Constitution and seconded with more intensity in Article 1, Section 24 of the state constitution. And for us to say that we need to pass a resolution on that, supporting it seems like pretty bizarre concept to me. So in a lot of things we look at, like the immigration, there's some fundamental failures at a low level, and yet we start putting Band-Aids on it at the higher level. Sometimes we have to. I suspect this one I'll wholeheartedly support, but it's not without the misgiving that shouldn't we do something about the people in Olympia and DC that don't understand the English in the Constitution, nor the value historically.
Yeah.
So we have a hand up. Go ahead, Vicky.
Is that going to be on Zoom? That was my only question.
Oh, yes, all of these meetings, these public meetings are on Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I agree with Commissioner Mortensen when it's sad that you even have to talk about these things because they're constitutional. It just should be, it shouldn't even be a question. And so it's sad in the sense that you have to push back, but sometimes you do.
Jim Collins here. Rick, a question for you on your agenda for this workshop. Is that to keep your idea to keep the feds from coming in here for unlawful seizure of firearms, et cetera, which our sheriff now will not support? We know that.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
That's a great question. And a great answer too.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, Vicky, you still have your hand up. I assume that's leftover. And I invite the hearing people to come up to the table now. It's a couple of minutes early. We'll stall there until 9:45. No, thank you. I have it totally. I have it here. Well, why don't you go ahead and start then?
Good morning, commissioners and members of the public. Savannah Clement with Public Works. Today we have before you our surplus listing, and there are quite a few things here we would like to discuss at the open hearing. I have Sean Rowe, our finance manager, who have prepared these surplus items for your review.
Good morning, commissioners. Today we have 3 surplus items for you today to discuss. The first one we have on the screen here is a 2005 Ford Taurus wagon. This was previously our mail vehicle. We have reviewed the uses and the repairs that are due on it and have determined to be in the best interest of the county to dispose of the vehicle at this time.
So go ahead and tell us what process you use to determine that this is the vehicle, not that other one that you want to surplus.
Sure. So we go through and look at the maintenance history of it, the predicted future maintenance of it, the current market value, and if the repairs of it would exceed that valuation. We always like to dispose of a vehicle while it's still running, as it gets a better return to us. And at this point in time, we thought that that would be the best movement forward on it.
So using this vehicle as a specific example, can you go through the pertinence for that?
Sure. So this vehicle is approximately 19 years old. It has 126,000 miles on it. There is a need of some significant transmission and engine work on this that should exceed the market valuation. It's blue booked at approximately $3,100. We expect the repairs to take more than that. And usually at an auction method of disposal, we usually don't get the full value. And so we believe that the cost does not outweighs the benefit on this one.
Questions, Rick?
No, makes sense.
The public? I see no hands up. Okay, next item.
Just real quick, I wanted to explain to you and the public again why we surplus items. And when we purchase county assets, we do have to go through the surplus process through a public hearing in order to dispose of these assets. So this is just the first of a two-part process. Surplusing is getting board permission to do so. The next step of the process is either to, as Sean mentioned, auction the items, sell them, or do something in a public fashion that would allow public to either bid or purchase those items in a competitive way. So just, I wanted to throw that disclaimer out there before we went on. Thanks.
Thank you, Savannah. Next page, please. So next we have a manufactured home. This is a 2003 Win 28 by 52. This home was acquired through a property purchase for a road realignment on Storm Road in the Castle Rock Tootle area. We'd like to remove the home from the property. It is currently vacant, and we do not have a use for it within the county roads department.
I would like to add that the property it is currently on is not a property that we can resell, nor can it be lived on in its current in its current state. So that is why also we're surplusing it.
You have a question, Rick? Next. Wait, I forgot, this was a public hearing, so when we're done, I take my gavel and I open it up and then your turn comes. My apologies, I messed that up earlier.
So next on the list is parcel number WL1506002. This is a parcel that is approximately a half-mile west of the Coal Creek and Ocean Beach Highway intersection. This is a parcel that was purchased by the County Road Fund in 1966 to develop a gravel pit. The gravel pit never happened. At this point in time, we do not maintain gravel pits on our own or manufacture that product. And we'd like to either sell or dispose of this property in fashion and get it back on the tax roll.
Yeah.
Can you scroll to the next image as well, please?
Surrounding this, yeah, when you see the next picture, you'll see stored all rock is all around that thing, so. And it's, if you remember driving by there, if you drive by, this is pretty steep property.
It is extremely steep,
Yeah.
yes.
So this actually is an example of a process. We workshopped, if I may use that word, yesterday. And so the public is welcome to those also. So more details sometimes appears there. We try not to shortchange you here and assume too much, but it's a deeper discussion at other times. Okay, that's your last item, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have any estimate on what you hope to get? No, don't answer that question. Let me open this to the public. The public hearing is now open.
I'd like some information on that property that you say it's extremely steep, right? Okay, now that is clear to the road that it's steep, or does it go back a ways? Is there some flat area in that ground? How large is that area?
Yeah, so the total parcel is 13.6 acres.
Okay,
Looking at this topography map here in the handout, it is, I would say, 95% hillside.
okay, pretty faint. So it does, I guess my question is, could a reasonable amount of area be, I would say, 2 acres be leveled to be somewhat flat?
I don't know if I have the expertise to tell you that. The county engineer did review this and approved for surplus. If I was to estimate the amount of that looks flat here, I would say it's significantly small. I wouldn't estimate. 2
Fairly
acres.
small?
Fairly small, yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, the reason I'm asking is after, I mean, I didn't have this available, that the Longview City Council had wanted land to put the homeless center. And if we have land that could have possibly been made into something acceptable, they only need like an acre that I can imagine to put these homes, 2 acres, then that should have been where this homeless center should have gone. But apparently you can't get 2 acres out of this area, correct? Because that would have been perfect. And for them not to have, if this land had not been available a little bit earlier, I understand, but apparently it had been, they should have accepted this and looked at it. So that I'm very disappointed in that. But again, possibly didn't have enough. It didn't have an acre. Okay, thank you.
Actually, there's a hand up that's been up. I'm sorry. Have a seat. We'll listen to Darcy.
Yes, does the county currently operate any gravel pits of its own?
We have what we consider drop pits. One that comes to mind is Norris Pit in Kalama. It's a location that we will use ditching debris. So when we go through and we clean out ditches, there is some contaminated soil in there. We also include, and Susan Eugenius, our county engineer, is on. So before I speak too much and get myself in trouble, I will have her comment on that.
So we do have what we call pits where we store materials, but we do not have any pits where we actively make gravel.
Can dredge spoils be used for any of this material that the county would use?
So there are dredge spoil sites around the county and they are not public work sites. We do occasionally use from those pits. I know that one of the dredge spoil locations is looking at potentially having the materials removed so we can use it when dredging occurs again in the Cowlitz. But they are parks properties, not public works, not road fund properties.
I haven't-
I don't know that dredge spoils make a good base. We've just seen that on Tower Road where it all came out, you know.
Well, pure dredge.
I have a
spoils.
sec-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a second part to my question is, can we talk about why, considering the proximity of this parcel to the successful mining project of Stordahl, why the county is not interested in developing that for its own use? And that'll be the end of my questions. Thank you.
So we do not, we're not in the business of processing rock. It takes very specialized equipment and people who do it, and it has to meet WashDOT standards when you're done to incorporate into our roadways. So that is why we are not in that business. It would be out of our realm of our current employees and the equipment we have to do that.
Yeah, I would add, I am pretty much against the county competing against the public on any of the businesses. That I think causes a lot of trouble. Your hand's still up, Darcy? Did you mean you're done? Okay, thank you. Sir.
Again, I'm not here for aggregate quarrying, but unfortunately, the county doesn't know the history. At one time, that was an active pit developed by Cowlitz County, the one on Ocean Beach Road. Unfortunately, the whole hillside's unstable, and it buried one of your former Cowlitz County road crew, Frank Mellis. And it buried a number of county pieces of construction equipment. And yes, at one time, Cowlitz County, not far from that site, from Harmony Road and Cold Creek, if you go up a mile past, not even a mile past Nemi Road, you had another rock pit that was developed by the county, which is now used for debris in West County. And it currently, the Stordahl pit, which was part of the Wool Farm, is now no longer an active quarry because they ran out of raw material. So there's no aggregate quarrying there at the moment. Possibility they may expand, but if you go toward that precipice that overlooks the old fill where Ostrander Construction was, you won't have an Ocean Beach Highway, or you'll have a new dam and you're gonna have to call it Coal Creek Lake. In 74 on the backside, before Stordahl owned the pit, they deployed about 20,000 pounds of TNT. Most of that went into Coal Creek. So that whole face is unstable.
So the steepness is less now than then, apparently.
Well, on the front facing what I believe are the descendants of Wool, there are two houses at the base. It's 90% slope.
Mm.
And the rock is weathered and unstable, which is why it buried the county crew on Ocean Beach Highway when they were developing, or Cowlitz County was developing it as a pit. I've got some great photos of all your buried equipment, if you'd like to see them.
That's always interesting. I'm actually a little puzzled because I think of a quarry as something that typically doesn't slide.
Well,
but I may be thinking of much heavier stuff than just plain aggregate.
it's great road material. It's black basalt, which is harder than almost diamonds. And if you go farther down to the Alder Bluff quarry, which WADOT now re-owns, that used to be an overhang too. And my dad's brothers and my father used to my dad's brothers helped build Ocean Beach Highway, and that was an overcrop too. And my father used to drive the Longview School District bus over the overcrop before they leveled it. But it's very hard and very dangerous too.
Well, I must say, I find your historical accounting here to be very interesting, and I thank you for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a matter of record, if you can find the records.
Ooh. Okay, I see no other public wanting to speak. Going once, going twice, going thrice. The public hearing portion is closed. And now it's up to us to further discuss or make a motion.
I would just make a motion to surplus the items discussed.
So we have a motion there. I don't have any other comments. Your motion is a comment. So let us vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye, and that passes. Thank you, everybody. Last call for any public comment.
Not really a comment, but question about records,
A question about what?
county records. After my last comment, the fourth estate was on the job again, and they interviewed the county auditor. Now, all right, first question, and I have only two. It says here, the county commissioners approved an additional $57,550 for the ongoing contract with the Washington State Archives to digitalize and index hundreds of thousands of records. Now, I looked at the December or February 7th agenda, and I didn't see any.
Hold on a second. Let me see. Can I get, you're working on it. Okay.
I looked at it again and I didn't see any appropriation or a bill. Was that approved sometime previously than February 7th? It says last week, and that would have been the December or February 7th meeting.
I don't know specifically the answer. I know in the past, we've probably authorized that for both, I'm a little shaky here, the clerk of the county and also for records or the auditor's office. So I'm sure we've been doing that probably more intensely since the COVID experience. So it goes back.
Well,
2 or 3
the
years.
article was printed on Saturday, February 11th, 4 days before your last meeting on February 7th. And they were they were specific last week. And when I saw the amount, I immediately looked at that agenda for the 7th and there's nothing there. So apparently it wasn't that date.
I don't recall, maybe the clerk of the board remembers, did we do anything in one of the Monday or Wednesday meetings about that?
Can you repeat that?
So well, why don't you go ahead and ask?
You want me to repeat it?
Yeah.
The article was printed on February 11th and your last meeting was the 7th, which would have been 4 days previously. And the reporter, Fairbanks, said last week, the county commissioners approved an additional 57,550 for the ongoing digitalization with the Washington State Archives. I looked at the agenda for 7th and I didn't see anything, so apparently it was approved previously.
I think Amy
Can-
is,
There's
Oh,
Kaylee.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I don't want to speak too much to the contract because that's not really my area of expertise, but I can confirm it was not last week. I believe it was 2, maybe 3 weeks ago that was approved.
So that's a misprint in the Daily News print edition. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Kaylee.
The second question, previously in another article, which was quite detailed on where all the breakdown of the $203.58. Now, I know Commissioner Dahl wasn't here, neither was his predecessor, but Commissioner Weber and Mortensen, you were here when the state started the increase with surcharges from $100, and then during the so-called pandemic, another surcharge of $100. Now, as an elected representative of the people of Cowlitz County, did you or Commissioner Weber ever go up to the state when they had these hearings and protest this fee creep?
I did not. I don't know about Commissioner Weber. I'm quite confident that our auditor works with the Auditors Associate, their membership club, if you will, and they pretty well opposed that.
Our county auditor presently opposed that.
I'm pretty sure that that's true.
So if I
Yes,
go up
yes,
to
we
the
were getting-
state and look at these hearings, she will be testifying against these fee increases.
I don't know if it would be at the hearing specifically, but there is, Kaylee, what's the name of the formal auditor organization? Washington Association of Auditors?
Washington State Association of County Auditors. Yes.
WASCA.
Yes, WASAC. Yeah.
And
No,
is she
not
on
WASAC,
record?
WASCA.
WASAC. Yes. Sorry,
she
there's too
on-
many.
Well, this is an association, just like there's an association of counties. Is the Cowlitz County Auditor in through this organization on record as opposing these fee increases?
I
For
don't, I
for
assume,
recording
I
records.
assume yes, but she'll have to speak for herself. The way that process would work is WASCA would present to the legislature, this is what we think. Independently, there's other testimony that can be done. My feeling on that is that the legislator does what it does regardless of what you and I say. That doesn't mean we shouldn't say something, but like I've been up there testifying on the marijuana tax. They didn't care. They want the money. They're not going to give any money back to the counties, for example. And that, by the way, you know that there's another $100 in question now.
This session?
This session, yeah.
So we're gonna see another surcharge and the fee will go up to $302.58.
Not 58 cents, 50 cents. Look, that 8 cents is important.
Not when you're dealing in millions of dollars, it isn't.
Well, it's only indicative that we have the right numbers.
So bottom line question, there's no definitive statement from our county auditor that she opposed these fees, only in this association of county auditors. Is that correct?
I have talked to her personally. You know, I am one of those very careful people that don't try and say something that I haven't seen personally. But talking to the auditor, I know she is viscerally, I mean, she's strongly opposed to any of these increases.
Well, the reason I want to be specific is in the introductory paragraph to this article and the caption under the picture, which is an old picture depicting the old bound records that used to be here. People can search for maps, deeds from 1850 to today. And in the first sentence of the paragraph, which they interviewed the current county auditor, in the near future, all county auditor official records stretching back to 1850 will be in a searchable online database. In the near future, not now. And then it's misleading. People can search for maps, deeds from 1850 to today, but our first, or whoever, the reporter's first sentence is in the near future. So it's not today, as the caption surmises or misrepresents.
Yeah, I'm a little betwixt and between on that because never say never comes to mind. For the most part, it is correct. What does that mean? Today, you can get most everything, not what you want, but most everybody can. So what happens, how do you report something when there are exceptions? Like we have no guarantee that there aren't missing documents until somebody really tries to find the 1865 document.
Well, this is what Lincoln was accused of when he tried to pass the 13th Amendment. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, I have no knowledge that there's a peace conference from the Confederate States in the Capitol. And the Speaker rose up and said, that's a lawyer's dodge. Well, it says they're all available in the caption, and then it goes near future. Kind of a comparison, but only a small c versus the or the 13th Amendment. That's all I've got.
Oh, there was an anonymous hand up for a moment. Do you want to put that hand back up again? I did not see it. David, you go ahead. You're muted, David.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I've been concerned about this, the way that the records have been taken over by the state in part, but the other part is that the actual charge that's made to the people that are recording. It seems to me that that is an illegal charge according to the Constitution. In the Fifth Amendment, says due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. And this charge, it got over $100 that recently was put on, and they're talking about a second $100 that does not go for recording fees. The fees of a recording should be just that, not anything beyond that, because they're taking money from individuals without just compensation and then giving it to other entities. It's forbidden in Article 5 of the US Constitution. And I don't understand that being anything other than thievery. I know this is not something that the county has to deal with. I mean, they're not guilty of this. This comes from higher authority, but seems like there'd be a lot of pushback from the county in this activity.
Did you want to comment on it or?
I'm really not
Well,
disagreeing with David.
Yeah, I think your points are well taken, except maybe the relationship to the Fifth Amendment, but it's certainly correct that the founding principles of this country didn't include me reaching into your pocket to pay for someone else's expenses. And if you look around what's happened over the years, and you attend any of these professional organizations, like we mentioned, WASCA, well, you go to NACO or WACO, any of those, and the entire argument isn't how can we justify the poor performance. It's like, how can we get more money? Well, it turns out that they figured out that such niceties as people have to record documents. So we kind of extort them, and that's another source of $100. That's just plain ugly
Yeah.
thinking. There isn't really very much we can do. There's a lot you can do, but this past election was supposedly was a measure on how things are going. And based on the outcome in this state, and maybe even in lots of other places, everybody was happy with the way things were going. And that reminds me of a little advertising here that when you're near the tipping point where most people can, as de Tocqueville said, vote themselves funds from the public coffer, then you are approaching the end. That's the danger of democracy, but we are a republic, but everybody calls it a democracy. In a republic, you have the rules, and you mentioned them, the Constitution. So we agree with you completely. If I knew how to do something about it, I would. Along those lines, you heard Commissioner Dahl mention that tomorrow we'll be discussing a sanctuary or a statement on the Second Amendment. That's another example of what? It's just government not being held accountable. Will we be able to change Inslee's mind or the legislature? The power, those people in power do not relinquish power easily. And we haven't gotten there yet, apparently.
I'm going to back up to the 57,000 a little bit, because I was looking through my notes, and I don't think it was actually, I could be a little bit wrong here, but I don't think it was actually ever a voting item. I think it was might have been one of our Monday workshops where departments come in and tell us what's going on. And I think they came in and were talking about the program, the archive program, and that it was more, to my recollection, an existing contract with the state, and they were looking at getting records archived from, I forget the years, this particular year. So I don't know that the paper may be just a little off, that I think it was already part of their budget. It wasn't a voting item, but we'll double check on it.
Let me go back to David, who was still, so are you done, David, or would you like to speak more?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, did you want to say more?
No, just, this sort of thing bothers me, that there isn't more said about it where the public hears it. I guess I'm a little late getting on to this whole thing, but I see this as a serious matter as far as the violations of constitutional, and the public is at fault because too few of us read the Constitution. I've been as guilty as that as anybody, but in reading it, it begins to open up new understanding. And if we aren't involved in it, then it creates a problem.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said. I'll maybe add one thing that maybe, well, anyhow, in 1919, the people of the United States understood that the federal government could not outlaw the consumption of alcohol. And an amendment was passed. Today, we accept that the federal government can outlaw anything. And hence, we're in real trouble. So yeah, the Constitution is largely ignored because people let their emotions rather than their sensibilities make the decisions. Are we good, David?
But I appreciate your input on that one. I've said enough.
Okay, thank you. And then going back to what Commissioner Dahl said, you're correct. Let me repeat that electeds have their own department, and we cannot tell them how to spend the money. We work with them on a budget, and that's the only leverage at all we would have. So I do believe this was probably pretty close to, this is what we'd like to do, and we looked at each other and said, yeah, I can't see an argument against it. So it was more like an advisory kind of thing, but I'm not certain, just like you weren't totally certain.
It was a motion item put in front of the board on January 31st. The agreement.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder why, did that? What was the authority for that? I'm puzzled in some areas. This is one. Anyhow, it's a sensible thing to do, so I'll worry about that. I'll try and get some clearer definition, talking to our attorney and to Carolyn. You want to go again?
The gentleman that was on the internet speaking about the Fifth Amendment, and you brought up we're not adhering to the Constitution, and we're not. And going back to the founders, the secretary was a guy listening to the Constitutional Convention, guy by the name of Ben Franklin. He's on the $100 bill. And when he came out of the convention, a bystander asked him, sir, what kind of government do we have? And he looked at the gentleman and he said, we have a republic if we can keep it. We're not keeping it. In addition to these auditors' fees that are creeping up, I'm also seeing it in the license fees, and the gentleman that tried to stop it, they've destroyed, Mr. Iman. And I'm also seeing it in property taxes too. Unusual fees that don't jive with your statements when you receive them in April. And I'm wondering where those fees are going.
Do you have an example of a fee?
I do, but I'm in litigation at the moment.
Oh.
But in the licensing fees, some of my vehicles say that it can haul 1 ton. So the tonnage fees are increased. And I try to show them the engineering specifications. If I put 1 truck on that truck, I'll have flat tires. And the clerks in the auditor's office, oh, well, you'll have to go to the state licensing department in Olympia. Again, like the archives. And another classification, well, that's a commercial vehicle. Well, I don't haul passengers and I don't haul freight, and I'm not a public utility carrier. Well, it's still a commercial vehicle. All from a clerk in a licensing department in a certain county in Southwest Washington.
Yeah, there is some latitude there, and I don't know enough, but there is one thing that the public doesn't probably understand. Our auditor has a contract to operate the licensing in Cowlitz County. If she does not abide by the rules they give, they'll just pull the contract and go somewhere else. I would submit that that's kind of an extortion mechanism or a blackmail mechanism of sorts. But I'd rather be able to walk to my auditor and try and figure out and do a caucus of how we can maybe improve things. If it's out of our hands, and I know it's a tenuous argument, but it's just, I'll say it again, we've got a very bad system because we let it go for a very long time. Amy, you want to say something?
I just kind of want to jump in and remind everyone that the auditor's office is merely the collector of the fee. We don't create the fee. And as far as DOL, Department of Licensing goes, we are using their system. So there's only so much latitude we have within their system without the state's permission or without them giving us more leeway to work within their software. There's very little we can do as far as bypassing fees or changing how vehicles are categorized or their weight, that kind of thing. That's nothing that we can even, we don't even have the capability to do that within the Department of Licensing system that we operate.
They got us coming and going.
Yeah.
Yeah, over history, you hear the same reply. I was just following orders. I have to obey what they set down or that are the rules. And I keep hearing this from you, Commissioner Mortensen. Well, they're their own elected department and officials. Now, we heard that from the coroner and look what we got. And we're not sure where that case is yet. And that was an out and out case of fraud.
Oh, that one, yeah.
But you three here, you control the purse strings. You know, you can stop that $57,000 from accepting it or applying for it.
That specific one, I don't know. I know categorically, and I wish the PA were on and they could comment on that.
But you're an executive legislative body in this state.
Let me tell you a little story about one of the boards up in, I don't know, Thurston Mason or something like that. Did not like the way an elected, the sheriff was doing something. And they said, fine, we will get it our way. We will squeeze you in some form or another. The sheriff sued and the county lost. And that is probably one example of probably others. I'm pretty good at figuring out how far we can push something usefully. It does no good for me to jump off a cliff and say, or go on a hunger strike and say, that'll prove something.
Well, I've seen it here in Cowlitz County with the judgeship. And then the judge went rogue and somebody reported to the county commissioner. And he did something about it and he called in auditors and whatnot. But it specifically had to do with electronics and watching a specific media. And the gentleman was a member of the county prosecuting attorney's office for a long time. Well, the commissioner did something about it. And yes, they came after him the next election and they elected their own boy right here in this commissioner's room.
So I'm not sure what you mean there, but in effect, what happened with the coroner election is as I think what you just tried to describe.
No, not the coroner presently. This was a judgeship and a judge using.
No, I understand that. I'm saying what happened with the coroner election was that despite the fact that there was fraud and things were shoveled under Well,
Exactly. And
yeah.
that case is still pending down in Clark County, and I don't know the resolution of it. Was there a resolution?
I am unaware of any progress in that.
Well, so it didn't look like impropriety. I believe that case went to Clark County and the case of the administrator of the courts went to Lewis County. And they just, well, it's in the fourth estate if you want to read it. I'm not going to repeat it, but nothing happened. And he still expects his job back. Like Will Rogers, all I know is what I read in the newspapers.
Apparently, maybe I should suggest you a different newspaper.
Well, if it was good enough for Will Rogers, it was good enough for me, you know, and they are the fourth estate. Sometimes, yes, like the fee, they didn't get it right. And when it was passed, yeah. And that's why I came here to ask about it. So I do my own fact checking. That's all I have.
Okay. Were you coming up to speak? Oh. I see no hands. Calling once. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Nothing further.
Thank you, everybody. I think we've reached the end. This meeting is now adjourned. Oh, wait, I see a chat thing. What does that say? Okay. Yeah. Adjourned.